Okay, I am going to attempt to make another wafer paper rose. This is the first one that I've tried to make, and I've just cut out a few bits of wafer paper, so just your standard finish wafer paper pack, nothing too special. And I've used a hole punch just for the first few because it's easy and it's quite quick, so just drop that in there and then punch out a whole heap of little rounds. And that was fine for the first couple of sizes that I did, but then I wanted other sizes as well, so I've just laid these down, made a template from them, and then folded it up and used a tiny pair of scissors. Here's my scissors. Yep. Just to run around and, can you see that? Yeah. Run around and cut that. So it doesn't have to be too precise. I've just done strips. Then from each strip I'm able to get 4 lots of 3 petals. That works out pretty well. So you can see you get lots of petals like that. If you're not filming and you're going a little bit slower, you can cut them slightly more accurately. But it's not too hard just to clean them up and you end up with reasonable looking petals. So I've gone ahead and pre-done some. So I've got my littlies, I've got my mediums, and I've got some slightly bigger ones again, and then I've got my very large ones. And I've pre-coloured them just to make it a bit faster, a bit easier. I'll show you how I coloured them quickly now. So, bring this over here. And I've just got my colours, and I've mixed up a custom colour from the moss and the lemon paper, the powder colours. And then I've just put this, grabbed a stack of them because I like to work in groups. And grab my brush, clean my brush off, grab my brush and just run across the tops of them. Bring the colour down. The idea of this is that it should be quick, and I'm not spending too much time on them, not faffing about too much with them at all. And just bring the colour down across the top of these. And then to do the green bit, so just pick them up. Just do the green bit, just clean off the brush and grab some of your green. So I like this shade of green because it's a little bit brighter than just the moss green. It tends to look a little bit more natural and perk things up, so just grab these like this. And just across the bottom. And again, because I'm a bit lazy, I like to do these in stacks of like 4 or 5, or 6 in the case of the smaller petals. And it works fine. It's not great, but it does the job. So that is how I colour the wafer paper. And let's move that back over there, out of the way. So I've started with a ball with some pastillage on the top, and I've just let that dry. This is actually a couple of years old. I made a whole heap of these and I've just been using them for a while for show flowers or whatever else. It's not great, it's just leftover gum paste that's been stiffened up a bit. So because this is super dry, I have wet the surface of it slightly. I'm just going to start with the smallest petals. We'll see if you can see what I'm working on here. Yep. And I'll start with this. Now I want the rough surface of these, so you can see they've got a, well, I don't know if you can see actually, but I've got a rough surface and a smooth surface. I'm going to try and make it so that the rough surface is what is adhering them. And I'm just going to roll this up. If your wafer paper is not super old, it'll have enough flexibility to do this anyway. If you live in a really dry area, you might need to use a steamer, but I found that I don't generally need a paper potion or a steamer. I've got one here just in case they start to crack, but should be fine. So what I'm done here is I've just made a tight little roll, and I've unrolled it, made a tight little roll, and just made some cuts at the bottom so that it's got some legs on it. And I pulled one of those legs off because I'm clumsy. I've got a little bit of water and paintbrush. Just take the water off. I'm just going to wet that enough to go a little bit tacky. You don't want to add too much water because it will completely dissolve the wafer paper. But I do want the central one to go tacky enough to stick. And I'll start on the next ones while that's going tacky. So again, rough side up, and just roll that nice and tight. And do a couple of these nice and tight. Whoop. So I'm using super advanced tools here. You really don't need the paper cutter. You really just need a pair of scissors and a satay skewer. So now the bit that I struggled most with on the first one I did was just getting the start of the rows to adhere. So hopefully we'll see how I go with this one. Hopefully this will work all right. So that stickier, yeah, it'll do. So try and stick that down and just add a little bit more water. Now I've tried this with alcohol and the alcohol didn't really work so well. It just made the paper really brittle, and even the petal potion, it made it all slippery, so everything was taking me longer than it should have. It was a nice tight little one. So I'll keep that roll nice and tight and just cut up there, spread that out and paint the bottom of that. Paint the bottom of that and try and get that to adhere. Unfortunately, I can't see the comments, so if there's any comments, I'll answer them later. But yeah, not quite advanced enough to have set anything up. It's only because I'm waiting on my washing. Waiting on my washing to dry. And the cat was making a bit of noise. I decided I'd occupy myself for a bit. So we'll see how we go. This might work, it might not. Might be a complete waste, so, but I'll give it a crack. What I'm doing is just waiting till these go a little bit softer before trying to stick them on. Yeah. So this is a little bit like with the chocolate, how the heat is what you're always trying to manage. With these, it's the moisture level. Because if you add too much liquid, it just turns to absolute mush. If you don't add enough, it won't be sticky. So I'm going to pop that over there and see if I can get that center to work for me. So nope, this is the point where it all starts to slide around and it won't stick. There was much wailing and gnashing of teeth anyway. So I've just got that center started like that. Okay. See if this one's sticky enough. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if that'll hold. And get that to stick. Once you've got that center sorted, it's really quite easy, but it's just a matter of getting it to behave. And I'm just going to paint a little bit up here to try and adhere that to itself. And I've not turned the... I actually turned the power on, it's so funny. There we go. The phone was yelling at me saying low battery. So hopefully this is in some kind of focus and you can see how that's coming together. Yep, so I've got a nice tight little section on the top there. And spin that through. Where did I put my scissors there? God, I'm holding them. Gee, if I had a brain, it'd be dangerous this time of morning. And chop that down there. I'm just cutting little slits up these so that I can create legs that'll hold on to the base. Now the first couple of rows, all the petals point inwards, and then it'll get to a point where they just very slowly start the edges bending out, and then finally the bend out is a lot more dramatic. So just paint that. Too much water. It only took me 10 minutes to cut all the petals out. It wasn't that big an issue, so there we go. Yeah, I'll just work on 3. Come on, get sticky. So I'm just pressing and holding the little legs on. I'm just trying to make that center a bit more secure with a little bit of extra water. That is not sticking at all. So I really probably should have covered this in fresh fondant before starting. It would have made the center a bit easier to start, but that's okay. We'll get there. Now hopefully that's a little bit wetter. And I'm just starting to build this out to the point where I'll be working in groups of 3. Yeah, but for the moment I just want this central one to stick. I just need to start dissolving some of that paper down onto the form, and hopefully that'll start soon. So here we go. So there's not much to look at, but you can see just nice tight little center starting. And yeah, again, I can't see the comments, so if there are any, I'll answer you guys later. Let's move on to the next set. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just do 3. Yeah, just do a layer of 3. So that is my very center. Whoop. Again, rough side, roll it nice and tight, and that'll give me the shape that I want. It's funny, I've got all the fanciest little tools going, and I still come back to the wooden skewer. Most valuable tool in all of cake decorating, I reckon. And well, that's just lifting up. So hopefully that center's starting to dry while I'm doing this. Just put it at an angle so you can actually see what's going on. And I'll stack these up. And chop them all. Most of these central ones really don't need any green on them. It's just kind of like the continuity of it. So it's all good. And paint those. I've tried this with Tylo's glue, I've tried this with my Tylo's glue that has alcohol in it, I've tried it with the paper potion, and all of them just seem to be more trouble than they're worth, and just the straight water works better than any of them. But it's just a case of not putting too much on, just enough to make it a little bit softer, and it'll go sticky on its own. So just like that, you can see the paper is a lot softer, and that will stick really quite well now. That's what the first ones should have been like when I started this, but anyway, now I'll start to do my 3. 1, and I can interleave these if I want, but I'm not going to bother too much. And that center is just going to tear off the cone, but that's fine. I'm not making a right dog's breakfast of this. Anyway, hold, damn you, hold. Oops, sorry, cursing. Anyway. Yeah, most people don't realise how much swearing there is in the delicate art of flower making, I guess. Anyway. Now, one thing that's really important when you're working on the inner layers of a rose is to make sure that the petals rise up. They're either level or ever so slightly taller from the inside to the outside. And then as they start to fold open, they need to come down lower. But as soon as you start coming down lower, you've got to open the flower out really fast, because otherwise it'll look like a pine cone. So, just getting that to... Oh, Greg's there. Hi, Greg. And just tie that in. I'm just trying to keep that center really nice and tight and neat, and hopefully it'll start sticking to the globe. 2, 3, yeah. These ones, I'll roll these again. So on my practice one of these, I was using the steamer, but it was more trouble than it was worth, really. So the steamer's fine, but the issue with using the steamer is that if you overheat the flower or overheat the petal, it'll actually make it dry out faster and crack. So you kind of got to hold it right so if the steamer's here, you've got to hold it right at the top of the steam, so that it doesn't get too much heat into it. So just keep rolling. Lots of nice little petals, because again, these ones are going to have in a little bit more. And I'm just going to roll the outside the other way a little on some of these. So from the top of the petal, just start nudging them outwards. What I will do with these as well, just to give them a bit more shape. 1, 2, 3. So I've gone up a level now, so these are the slightly larger ones. Is give them a cut and a little bit of a glue. So go to about that high up the petal. And I'll just paint these on one side, cross it over, press and hold, and it'll hold its shape. That starts to give me that nice cup shape. So do a few of those, not too much water because they'll just melt and you'll lose that shape. Three. I'll do another 3 here. Might go a little bit higher with that cut on these ones, so that's up to there. These will be the inside ones on this row. So you see there's not a lot of water there, just enough. Fold it over. Now if you're a real perfectionist, you'd cut the little leggy bits off, but I actually quite like them. They help to make the petals adhere better. So if this is going on this way, I haven't quite picked a side yet, so it's all good. I'm going to nudge the tops of these out ever so slightly. So just, if you imagine that's the tip of the petal there, so the petal's curving in this way, so just across the top on each side, I just give it a little bit of a nudge outwards. So overall the petal's still in that way, but just the top edge is bending out a little bit on each one. So it's not much, it's just enough to try and make it a little bit more interesting. And then just to make these stick, run a bit of water across these. Yep. Maybe a little bit higher on these, just because they're the inside ones. So if you do put too much water, it doesn't matter, you just have to be quick to take it off, because otherwise they just melt. And let's, come on, hold on, silly thing. So this one will go on here, about there. So you can see I'm going ever so slightly higher, and it's not holding on to the center at all, which is fine. Because why would it be easy? Anyway. So. Yep, it'll stick to me, but not to the bulb. Of course. Let's bring that over there a little bit more. And again, I'm just trying to melt the legs of this onto the actual bud. This is where that messy little fishtail actually helps to secure everything. And a couple of coats of this is softening it up nicely. So that I can just pop that in there. And hopefully this will start to secure itself to the bulb. I keep saying bulb, but the central bit, the bitty bit. Yeah, see, I know all the technical terms, clearly. Erg. Okay. So I've still got that in there. I'm just going to wet down the edges of these a little bit just to secure them to each other, just so that I can tighten up that center a bit. There we go. Yeah, it's looking better. It's starting to behave itself and lock onto the ball. So you can see just the very top. I'll bring that up to the camera and watch as it struggles to get any kind of, any kind of sharpness. And we'll move on to the next lot. So wet these again. And you do end up taking a little bit of that colour off, but surprisingly the colour holds on pretty well. So, and I've forgotten to curl the edges of these before I've started. But again, it's not a huge issue. If anything, it's good because it gives me more time. So again, just rolling the top of that back a bit, rolling the top of that back a bit. And there, same again. There we go, so hopefully you can see the sort of shape that I'm building off that. Bring that around. That's starting to get a bit tackier, which is good. And just paint that down. Now, pop that on. I'm just putting that over the kind of seam of the other two. So. And just press and hold that. It should go nice and gummy and then start holding on to itself. Okay, so that's where I'm at the moment. I'm hoping to bring the flower down onto the form a little bit more now, but we'll see how we go. Probably don't need these petals. Done with those, I'll move up to the next size. Could probably have cut a lot more of the bigger ones, but that's all right. It is all good. It's all just experimenting anyway, so I don't like the look of that one. 2, 3. 2, 3. Hey, I can see the comments. So, hello Jessica, hey. And it's a bit of a stretch to get up there, but anyway, to see the phone. Now, I'm just going to roll these again, but this time it's more about rolling the core of the leaf, so I keep calling it a leaf, it's a petal. But yeah, so I'll just run through these as quick as I can because otherwise you guys will get bored. Because I know I would. Whoop, and that started to tear. I'll just be a bit more careful with some of these. This is quite old wafer paper, but even then it's not the end of the world. The colouring process can dry it out a little bit too. Keep going. I'm just starting to form a little bit of shape for my outer petals. Give them a bit of love. Well, outer petals, these are really kind of the middle petals, but anyway. Like I said, clearly in all the technical terms, paying attention. So done. And while I'm doing this, it's giving the centre time to kind of dry out a bit more. I still prefer working in chocolate because it's so much faster for me. But this is fine. Okay, now on these I'm going to go across the top again. So if they're flat like that, I'm going from the tip of the petal, which is here, down the side, and from the tip of the petal down the side. So the petal rolls towards me like this, and then these two edges will fold away. It's just a bit of a quick on each side. And just a quick roll each side. as you can see, I kind of like to batch my processes. I like to do a bit of everything at once, which is, again, why chocolate appeals to me, because it doesn't dry out, so you've got time to do that. The wafer papers also seems to be pretty good for that. Now some of these are cracking a little bit, so any of them that are really torn, I just put more towards the outside. So generally a rose will have really nice pristine petals on the inside, and they get a little bit more jaggedy and janky towards the outside. You can texture these more if you want to. You can colour them up and spend a lot more time with them, but again, the point of these is just I want them to be quick, so I don't have the patience or energy for doing more to them. I don't want to wet them completely and then leave them on a mould to dry for hours on end. I don't have that kind of patience. Usually when I'm doing stuff, it's all about the speed for me, because I just don't like wasting time. 3 and 3. So what I'm doing is just stacking them up to cut them. Cut these ones quite high again, just so I get more of that nice bowl shape. Here we go. Cut these ones again. And what the hey, I'll grab another one from here. And roll. It's kind of interesting, some of these parts of the sheet are a lot drier than other parts. So some of the petals are really dry, some of them are not at all. So some of them are more prone to cracking. It also helps that, like, these are the perfect flour to make if you live in a humid environment, because it means that your wafer paper won't be all cracky. And mine's not too bad at the moment because I've got a load of washing in the dryer. And yep. So I'm just painting one side of the fishtail and then crossing it over, and that's enough to stick it. So these are quite wide open ones, and just the amount that you cross the legs determines how tight the bowl shape is. So how tight that is, so that's a tighter petal. And I have some of the larger ones. Now, in reality, very few roses are like super pointed at the top. This is not a great way to do this. Oh, hey Debbie. Conditioned? Not at all. So this is just straight wafer paper. There's no conditioning at all. It's slightly humid in here, but some of these are still cracking. I've found that conditioning it was more trouble than it was worth, so I've just not been, it's just, yeah, it's just too much effort. So I'm just going to paint some of these so that they get nice and sticky. Nice and sticky. Not too much water, but just a little bit more than I have been because it's taking me too long and I get impatient. Oh, that one got a bit too much water. That one's been watered, that one's been watered. Okay, getting a bit carried away now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm just putting it on and taking it off, putting it on and taking it off. And now that should be sticky enough, yep. So you can see I'm putting that over the intersection of the other ones. It's ever so slightly higher than the center. Colour, I've just cut the petals out and then coloured the cut out petals. Not done anything too flash with that in terms of colouring. Coloured them with dry, what are these called? Powder colours, petal dusts. So I'm not going to bother so much about these not crossing over because I kind of want a little bit of space. All right, hold on to yourself, petals. So I'm taking more of like a papercraft approach to doing these rather than having perfectly shaped and formed petals. And some of these where the edges are a little bit too sharp, you can just go back in and trim them so that they look a little bit more natural. Or you can hit them with a little bit of water later. That'll help a lot. So come on, crunch on in. Yeah, hold on to yourself. Now I'm going to lose the center a couple of times as I do this, and it doesn't really matter, they will reattach themselves. Just stab the camera. Come on, hold on. This is where I lose my patience with it a little bit, because with chocolate I don't have this kind of drama, having to wait for things. It's just kind of instant, but it's all good. Okay, hold on. Good, yep. It started to adhere to itself again. Gone sticky enough, yep. Okay, you can see these have warped while I've been waiting, which is good. And I'll just put that over that crease there. Now I'm going to start coming down a little bit. That means that I can start opening out the flower more. Oh, come on, hold on. Hold on to yourself. Good flower. Yep, special pleating, that's how to cake decorate. Works well. Doesn't everyone talk to their cakes while they're doing these things? Yep. Okay, hold on, hold on. This just really has no stick to it tonight. Come on. Work with me, not against me. Flower, work with me. Try and get it all to grab to itself. Come on. Good little flower. Okay, so you can see how I'm building that out. I'm glad it's not just me, Debbie. Anyway. And where are we? Where did we get to with these? So it's nice and wet there. Nice and wet there. So when I'm working on my chocolate petals as well, I like to work in groups so that I can kind of batch my processes to start getting things to work how I want them to. And now this is starting to, this row, I'm starting to try and stick it further down on the ball. And the petal's still at the top, but I'm starting to bring it down a little bit. So now it's just kind of in line with it instead of taller. Okay, so hold on, little petal, hold on. Don't make me say bad words. And I've kind of gone a bit off the rails here, but it's fine. Yeah, it's a ball of pastillage. Unfortunately, it's one that's really old and it's really shiny and it's not porous enough to stick and hold everything that I want to. I should have covered it in a bit of fresh fondant first and it would have made my life a lot easier. Okay. So although I've gone off the rails a bit here with the way this is coming together, I'm not unhappy with it. It's still looking reasonable. I'd normally like the center to be a bit tighter though. So just crunch it on. Crunch it on, crunch it on. I want these petals to stick to themselves. Why is that just not sticky anymore? I know what I did differently yesterday and what I will do again. I made a slightly gluier water using some wafer paper. So another little egg cup and let's go again. So, oh, thanks. So let's see if this will work for me. Take that. Yeah. That'll take a few seconds to dissolve completely and hopefully that'll become a nice glue for me. Because although the Tylo's glue that I was using was completely useless, I think that this actually helped. I was using a little bit of this last night when I was working on this one, so I was working on this one here. And it seemed to work a bit better, just for stickiness. So, let's see. Come on. Finish melting. Should have used hot water, but I mean, we can't all be geniuses. Arg. All right, hold on. Yeah, that's a little bit snottier and stickier, so that's what we're after. I know, great description, right? And drag that down. I should have enough of these for this to work quite well for me. Just make sure I've not got any water here. Keep that mixing. And with these, I'm just going to keep the shaping simple again, nothing too exciting, really doesn't need it. Shape and then cut? Yeah, shape and then cut. So rough side towards me, so you can see the shiny side is very, very smooth. The rough side's got a little bit more texture. This one's cracked a little bit, but it won't affect anything. So just roll that. Won't affect anything, he says, watching the petal shatter into a million pieces. Nah, shouldn't be that bad. And come on, give it a bit of shape. This is where I get myself in trouble. I start trying to do more than one at once, and it ends up taking twice as long. I think as well, just with curling it, just being a little bit patient and starting with a softer bend first and then bending it is easier. If you just try and bend it too fast, or too much too fast, it just cracks. So it's, yeah, just a case of being a little bit more patient with it and slowly working the shape to what you want it to be. Like with this, bend it too quick and it will just break like that. So it's just, you want to try and avoid that where you can. And just the warmth from your hands tends to help quite a bit. And it being a slightly more humid night helps a heck of a lot. I'm just rolling all of these towards me. And what I think I should have been doing as I've been going is trying to melt and blend down the bum ends of these a bit more. But you can only do so much. So hold that on. I'm just based in Perth, Western Australia. Where are we? So it's not the fastest thing to do. Again, chocolate flowers are so much faster for me, including the colouring. Probably knock one of these out in about 20 minutes at the most. Although if you're stopping to explain things and you're learning as you go, it tends to slow it down a bit. Wow, right through. How good is that? Got to be happy with that. And now again, more of the boring rolling. I'm trying to bend it too sharp, too fast, so I've cracked it, but it won't matter on that. I'll use that on the outside. So to do this, I'm sort of starting from the middle and rolling it gently, and then rolling it sharper. So just from the shiny side, just roll it gently, and then you get a bit sharper as you go, and you don't crack it. Gentle roll, nip it in, and you can get quite a sharp kill doing it that way, just if you start slower. Oh, he says breaking one. see where I'm at. For these with the closed centres, the tighter the centres are, the better they look and the more natural they look. The more petals you can get in the middle, the better the flower ends up looking, and then the outside petals you can just kind of blow out really, really big. Wouldn't the tears make it look more? The tears. That's discussion earlier with the tears and tears. Yeah, they can make it look more natural, but they can also just make it look like you've messed up your petals. So it just depends on the placement and how well you disguise it. Well, you come back. So a little bit on each side and fold it over. And you can see how quickly you get the nice shape. So a little bit and fold it over. Could have probably gone even larger on these, but it's fine. 3 AM on the Goldie, lol. Yeah, it's early in the morning here, but I'm nearly ready to go to bed, so I shouldn't take too much longer for this. Kind of cool how quickly they just pop together. Yeah, that can be a more open one. Alright, so some of these, again, I'm just picking through for the ones that are closed more. And hopefully my little glue here is going to help me out a little bit more, please. Yep, so just a little bit down each side so that it sticks. Leave it for a second, a little bit down each side. And I'll pop that kind of there-ish. We'll start from about here. Oh, come on, nope, that's got to be up higher. Yep, so that'll fill in that spot there. Well, that petal's kind of sideways. Hey. Come on, sit nice. Oh, that one's sticking on of its own accord, so that's good. That's what I want. And where's that other gap? About there-ish. Again, I'm not too worried about the placement of the petals. The kind of more random it is, the better it looks, within reason. You can interleave them and make it look like you really actually care, but there's just no great benefit to it. So come on, stick that on. That's more like it. Stick that on. Help me out here, flower, help me out. So yeah, apparently the tacky glue does make a bit of a difference. So if you're doing this at home, start with a bit of wafer paper and make it up before you start trying to glue everything together. And whap that in there and see how we go. This is the bit where I struggle because I lose the will to live waiting for things to dry. It is my least favourite thing about cake decorating or sugar craft of any sort, is waiting for things to dry. I loathe it. Loathe it with a passion. Come on, hold on. There you go. And again, I know I keep harping on about modelling chocolate, but this is why. Because there is none of that with modelling chocolate. Once you've got the hang of it, it is really, really very, very forgiving. And hold on. And other funny noises. Wish I had some sort of good anecdotes or something, but I just don't. I'm not a great storyteller. Alright, so now, because the petals are starting to open out more, I'm able to lower them. Just need to bring that up onto the ball so that I can hide that out. Now, if you've got points like that and they're not quite behaving, you just paint them and they'll sit down nice, he says, impatiently. So they'll take a little bit to do it, but they will. There we go. But I suppose this is where it's important to see how long things actually take rather than a sped up video, because you don't really learn a lot from a sped up video. It's kind of important to see where things go wrong and how long things actually take, so that you're not disappointed if you're trying to do it at home on your own. The first one of these I did while I was just watching telly, and having something to distract me made it easier because it meant that I wasn't faffing around with the flour. I was giving it time to dry between layers. But now my washing is finished drying, I'll need to fold it before going to bed. Yeah, I dusted the backs as well. It doesn't take very long. If you watch back, you'll see how fast you can dust them up. So each time I'm doing this, I'm just kind of covering the gap. And where can I go with another one? About there, yep. And it's just a case of pressing and holding it and being patient, which I am not. Yeah, that's starting to hold on nicely now. And press and hold. So what I'm doing is just giving it pressure so that it starts to adhere. And I'll just cut the last few of these, just because it'll give me some options. So I like having options. Oh, I cut them off screen, but anyway. I don't quite know what number of petals I did. I know I did roughly 9-ish of each size. That usually seems to work quite well for me. So again, I'm just not that obsessive with the number of petals that I'm adding to things, because it's just not that relevant. So I can bring that up again. And positioning is everything with hiding the center. Come on, stick. Stick, you cretin, stick. You can do it. And then, I suppose I should really fold that. Arg. So I'm really not that patient with these things. So these ones have got a tighter little kind of bowl to them because I want these to be smaller petals, even though they're the same size as the ones in front of them. They're sort of smaller, more dramatic petals that'll sit down lower. And gently, gently, and then tight. And same again, gently, gently, and then nice and tight. My glue's finally started to melt properly. Right as I'm finishing, just in time to be useful. Well, that's a good tip for if anyone does this again. Forgot that I'd done that last night when I was making them. Like I said, we can't all be a genius. Certainly not. And I'm going to pop that there. So just as you're doing this, pick the flower up and move it around so you can see where things are going, where they need to go. Press and hold. That'll start to adhere. And I've sort of made that section too loose. That's I'm going to pop that in there. And I reckon I'm going to call that about done. Because this is starting to look a bit random. I'm just giving that pressure on the back to adhere it on each side. And I'll see if I can rescue this horror show that's happening on this side of the flower. Don't know that I can, but you can see from the back how you start to come down as you get to the bottoms. And what the heck, I'll just whap one last one in there and call it done. Where was it having the most problems about there? Yeah. Okay. Yep, and that sort of helped to adhere it all. So you can see the bottoms are all tied on nice. It's a reasonably clean finish. And that's more or less the rose done. I will cut out just a little bit for a calyx, I think. This is where you get to laugh at me for my inability to draw a star. There's a... That'll do. I'm sort of just trying to mark out a rough star here. Just by scratching it. Yeah, that's terrible, but it'll be fine. Alright, chop that, chop that. so that looks an absolute mess, but this is supposed to be a fasty one, so not too fast. I'm just going to go around and give it a few little cuts along. Yep. And a few more cuts. That'll do. And let's just bring this colour back. Now I'm going to make that side the sticky side, so I'll do this lighter. Nice light dusting of colour. And that's fine. Then on the back I'll just do the moss green straight. Okay, so that's all good. Now I will actually use a steamer just because it's a bit of fun. So this is a just cheap steamer. It's fine. Well, it's not that cheap, but it's just a basic steamer. You can just use a kettle if you really want, but these are kind of fun. Takes a few seconds to heat up. While it's heating, I'll run and grab some flour tape. Alright, now we've got some steam happening, nearly. Alright. Now, weirdly, this will curl away from the steam, so come on, hit me with the steam, you can do it. So this will start to curl away from the steam, and quite dramatically. This is what I mean with the, don't want to hit it too hard with the steam this close normally, because it'll make it curl and get a bit brittle. But it is a kind of fun little thing to do. And okay, let's just calm that down a bit. All right, there we go. So if you're just trying to lighten up or loosen up your stuff, you don't want to do it this close because it dries too quick. You want to do it from way back over here, like way out of the steam, so it just gets a little bit of moisture on it. Not too much, but just a bit. And I don't know what I did with my paintbrush. That's a bit funny. Oh, here it is. So now I'm just going to wet this and drop it on the thing. Just going to wet this to try and make it sticky. And you could spend a lot more time doing a calyx that you actually care about and make it look nice, but this is adequate. Is it good? No. Is it adequate? Yeah, it'll do. So I'm just pick that up, put that on, pop that in. Just brush that on with a little bit more water. And then peel that down a bit so that it looks a little bit more natural. And sort of mould it onto the back of the petals. And you can see that's like, it's because I've raced it, you can see down the rows a little bit more than I would usually like, but the overall effect is fine. If that was on a cake, it wouldn't matter. If I spent more time on it just getting the base of the petal to cover the ones in front more, it would be a much more successful rose, but as it is, it's not bad. There are mistakes there, but it's fine. Oh, come on, press and hold. Too much water. And stick to yourself. You can do it. Good little rose. There. So Now I'm just going to make anyone who actually knows what they are doing with flowers absolutely like, grossed out, but it's fine. Just twist this up towards the top. And I'm going to be a bit lazy and just keep twisting this over. Oh, you're welcome, Sandra. So just keep twisting this over at the top just to make a bit of a rose hip. And just stretch that out to activate the glue, make your rose hip. Oh, come on, hold on. I'm getting really lazy and messy now. Up. Good flower. Okay, and if you weren't doing this late at night and you spent more time on it, you'd be able to make it look better. Okay, push that up to make the hip a little bit better. And start to bring that down over itself. So stretch that out. Just bring that down and then back up over itself again. Come on, get on there. Stick to yourself. That'll do. Really don't care that much, that's fine. So, sort of shape that rose hip out a little bit more. Ordinarily, I would thicken this with a pipe cleaner just down the stem so that the stem looks more realistic. But that works. So you can see the base there. It's a little bit destroyed, but you can see the base there. I've overwatered one of the parts, but it's all good. Now, with the top of this, fixing this up, anything where the edge is too sharp, like that bit there, you can just paint it along that edge with a bit of water, and that'll make the edge kind of dissolve and curl in on itself a bit. So you can do this over a fair amount of the rose, so anywhere where it's really rough as well, and it will look like just general damage. And where else can I do that? Just across here. Well, especially on these lower outer ones, you can really go to town with these. Put a fair amount of water on them, and that will eventually dissolve the edge of that petal, just so that it looks older and jankier. Let's see if I can just get that to hide the inside a little bit more. Yep. And it's starting to get there. And the very final thing that you do is just bring your colours back. And you want to introduce some more of that colour to the edges of the petals. So just run them over. Just across the top. Needn't be too much, just across the tops of the petals. Just to highlight them. Then I like to add a little bit more of this bright green just to the very edges. So where you've already added the red, it makes it go brown. It makes it look like it's aged. but also it just kind of makes it look a little bit more natural and exciting. I love to bring more of the colour down onto the base of this, just to make it look like it all belongs together. If you accidentally tap too much on it, it's not a big problem, you just dust it off. There, one vaguely natural looking rose. There's a few problems with it. You can see down the bottom of it too much, but again, that's something that you'd correct just by giving yourself an extra 5 minutes between the inner layer where you first go from the ball to the next layer down onto the actual ball, from the top to the actual ball, so you can hide that ball better. And that's that. So they're really quite simple flowers. So this one that I've spent more time on, you can see it's the ball is hidden really well, and I don't have any of those problems. And again, with this one, it's not at all an issue. It's fine. I can photograph that well. I can put it on a cake and hide the flaws, and yeah, it all comes up okay. And you can see really well here with the water, how well the water makes the petals look like they're aged. So I'll go back over this one with a little bit of water in a moment. And that's that, all done. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.